Welcome and thank you for attending. My name is Stu Smith. I'm the Enforcement Supervisor for the New York, New Jersey Regional Fugitive Task Force here in the Northern District of New York. To my left, for some introductions, is our U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of New York, U.S. Marshal Dave McNulty. To his right is the Mayor of Cohoes, Bill Keeler, and to his right, is the Cohoes Police Chief Todd Walden. To his right is Cohoes Lead Investigator, Detective Sergeant Mike Green. To his right is U.S. Marshals Task Force Officer and New York State Police Investigator Ron Perrone. And to his right is U.S. Marshal Lead Investigator Anthony Ojeda. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of New York, U.S. Marshal Dave McNulty.
Good morning, everyone. We're here this morning to announce that the United States Marshals Service has placed Anthony Ojeda on its 15 most wanted list. Ojeda is wanted in connection with the murder of a 6-week-old infant in Cohoes, New York in December of 2019. On December 3rd, 2019, the Cohoes Police Department and local emergency services responded to a Cohoes apartment for an unresponsive 6-week-old boy. That child, Eli Ojeda, later died at the hospital. A subsequent investigation and autopsy revealed that young Eli died from acute methamphetamine toxicity and physical trauma. As a result, Anthony Ojeda, who claimed to be the child's father, was subsequently charged with second-degree murder. Additionally, Ojeda's husband, Neil Garzon, was charged in Albany County Court with endangering the welfare of a child and hindering prosecution. Both of these men are believed to be traveling together, and both are now wanted by the United States Marshals Service and their whereabouts are unknown. The United States Marshals Service reserves placement on our 15 most wanted list for those suspected of the most heinous crimes, such as the one that Anthony Ojeda is accused of committing in Cohoes. In doing so, we are offering a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of Anthony Ojeda, and investigators believe that Ojeda and Garzon may have received assistance from family members or associates in their efforts to evade law enforcement. It's our hope that by offering this significant reward, viable tips and information regarding their movements will bring the Marshals Service and our law enforcement partners gathered here today one step closer to bringing justice for Eli. With that, I'd like to ask the Chief of Police for Cohoes to give some remarks.
Thank you, Marshal. So what brings us here today, as Marshal McNulty already stated, this was a very serious crime. And due to the seriousness of this crime, the death of a 6-week-old boy, and once we had determined that the defendants had left the area, we reached out for assistance from our federal law enforcement partners, the U.S. Marshal's Office. I would like to thank them and their assistance in helping us to track down these two and bring them back. I'd also like to thank the media that is here today for giving the attention to this case that it deserves, so that these two people will hopefully be brought to justice. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Detective Sergeant Michael Green of the Cohoes Police Department.
Thanks, Chief. On December 3rd, 2019, I was placed at the lead of an investigation for the death of a 6-week-old infant. An investigation that really brought our community to its knees over the heinous act of what occurred. With our cooperation with the New York State Police, we had a very good, thorough investigation leading to the arrest of Anthony Ojeda. At this point, we can't really give too much information as far as the investigation goes for the integrity of the investigation, because once they're captured and brought back, court proceedings will still have to go forward. I also would like to thank the New York State Police for their assistance with the initial investigation and the U.S. Marshals for their assistance in trying to apprehend these two. And again, for the media for putting it out there and aiding with this. I'm going to turn it back over to Stu.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So bottom line here is we are appealing to the public for assistance, okay? Someone out there knows something and has information that's relevant to this case and can contribute to the capture of Anthony Ojeda. So justice can be served for Eli, okay? There's two primary ways to reach out with information. Number one is to call. That number is 877-WANTED-2, okay? 877-926-8332. The second method, which is rather quick, easy, and simple, is the U.S. Marshals Service tip line. You can Google U.S. Marshals tip. It'll bring you right to the website, and you can provide your tip online. What we ask is to provide as much relevant and rich information that you have that can help aid in the capture of Anthony Ojeda. With that, we'll close out the formal portion here, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you all might have.
Can the tips be made anonymously?
They can be, yes, ma'am.
Where do you believe they are now?
So we do believe that they've left the capital region, and we are working a variety of leads that we are confident will lead to their capture, but we need the public's help with that.
I think I saw a published report that they were spotted in another state, Indiana, or can you talk about where they were spotted in the United States?
Sure. So we have information that they were in a vehicle that was last known to be in Lebo, Kansas. And that's in a previous release that we have. And we are obviously have aggressively followed up on that as well and continue to follow up on potential next moves after the Lebo, Kansas activity that we're aware of.
Do you believe that they're both still in the United States?
We don't know whether or not they're still in the United States or not. Big country, a lot of places to hide.
What does it mean to be elevated to the 15 most wanted? What does that entail with other law enforcement or in getting their names out there?
Man, that's such a great question. So, the Marshals Service, like many other agencies, we have our top 10, top 12, top 15 most wanted. For the U.S. Marshals, we're going after our nation's most violent and dangerous. Anthony Ojeda is one of them. In fact, he's one of our top 15. And it's extremely important. We bring all assets and resources available from both our agency and our partners. That's what brings us here today. And, being a top 15 will allow us to really exploit the full, potential of the law enforcement community to take Anthony Ojeda into custody.
Could you explain what that process looks like? Is that just relying on other law enforcement agencies to help out?
So the process of elevating it to a top 15 or the process of?
Utilizing everyone else's help in locating these two.
Right, so that process could include sharing information. It could include, leaning on one another for help. It could include, if we're in a time-sensitive scenario, reaching out to partners across the nation or internationally if needed. So it could be, that process could take on a variety of different roles, right? Does that help answer your question? Okay.
If people spot them, what should they do? Do you consider them dangerous?
We do, and great question. If you spot them, what we ask is to be an extremely good witness, right? So it's the idea behind, what are they wearing? What's their direction of travel? What vehicle are they in? Have they changed their appearance? Do they look like the picture that you saw, that we've released to the media? So it's really about being a good witness and to provide that rich content, that rich information to the law enforcement community, to that tip line, that phone number or that tip line.
And when you say that you believe that family or friends are helping them, do you believe that that's from this area or all across the country?
We do believe, the best way to answer this, we do believe the family and associates are assisting them in evading capture.
So was there a license plate or a car that you said that they were last? Yeah. Were you able to locate that Nissan Sentra?
We have not located that Nissan Sentra, so we are asking for the public's assistance if they have a vehicle with that plate number matching that description or anything that's suspicious or connected to this case, to please report that.
Does this go out to all law enforcement agencies so that they have it when they, Highway Patrol,
So, ma'am, what will happen is our headquarters, our Office of Congressional and Public Affairs, is also this morning in concert and in coordination with us, is releasing it to the national news media. It'll be on our website as one of the top 15 most wanted, and we're sharing this locally. Another potential avenue is billboards, and there is a $25,000 reward if the information provided leads to the capture of Anthony Ojeda, which is extremely significant. That's one thing we want to get the word out on, is that there's a good purse here for someone who has information on where Anthony Ojeda is.
Now that he's on this list, at what point, is there any point where he can move up on the list to be higher?
No. They're not ranked 1 through 15. There's just a top 15 most wanted.
And as the time goes on, will that reward money, will that increase?
It has the potential to. That is a potential option in the future. Any other questions, even for any of our law enforcement partners?
Maybe for the Cohoes Police Department, either of you that could speak to this, it's been some time since this has happened. I believe one of you talked about, the hurt that this brought to the community. Can you explain just from a law enforcement perspective, like how this has affected the department? Because I'm sure you guys are very eager to solve this case.
It affected the department in a number of ways, only because... Thank you. It affected our department in a number of ways, only because being a smaller department, there were a lot of officers that were involved in this. There were some officers who had been to that address and were familiar with the people from previous calls, and then there were those first responders who arrived the day of the incident, also the detectives and investigators and the state police investigators who came and helped out. So a lot of different people were involved as this played out, and unfortunately, once the determination was made as to what took place, it really hits a lot of people, whether you have children of your own or not, but a 6-week-old child died, and it didn't have to happen. It shouldn't have happened, and then the people who were responsible for that decided to take off and didn't want to be held accountable for it. So if you are one of the investigators who was involved, and if you're one of the officers who was there at the time they were trying to save this baby's life, that really does have an impact on you, and it doesn't go away. And it certainly doesn't go away when the people who are responsible are still out there.
Chief, do you still believe that the system failed in this case with no supervision for a person who was indicted on a second-degree murder charge?
At the time that this was going through the court system, the person was eligible for release under supervision of probation. So that is what took place, because that's what was available at the time, and that's how the law was written. I do know that there's been some changes to that, but aside from that, he was afforded that opportunity under the bail reform law at that time, and that's what was decided to do, was that he would be released under supervision of probation.
And Detective Green, can you talk to me for a second? We know that you've personally been working tirelessly on this case. Do you still carry his prayer card with you to the court?
Still have it with me. Carry it every day when I'm working the case, and it stays with me, either at my desk or at my home.
Why is that?
I was at Albany Med when baby Eli passed. I worked the case, made the arrest, and to me it's very personal. Not just as a police officer, but as a father.
Anything else?
No, that's great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Can I just get some names?
Sure.